My name is Jamal. This story is based on an incident that happened to me about 3 to 4 months ago. So, the matter goes like this. 2 years ago, when I was working on a computer in my office, my phone rang. When I looked at the phone screen, I saw an unknown number. I thought it must be some useless or random call, wondering who could be calling me. Anyway, I answered the call and said hello, but there was no response from the other side. Even after I said hello, hello several times and still received no reply, I angrily disconnected the call. Then once again I became busy with my work again. After some time, I received another call from the same number. I answered and said hello again, but the response was exactly the same, complete silence from the other side. Then the call was disconnected. By now, I was fed up with these repeated calls. On one side, there was pressure from work, and on the other, these constant phone calls. I was cursing the caller in my heart when my phone rang once more. When I checked the screen, it was again the same number. This time my temper was at its peak. I quickly answered the call and said angrily, "Why are you bothering me? If you have something to say, then say it. Otherwise, stop disturbing me like this." I had barely finished these words when a beautiful female voice came from the other side. She said, "I've fallen in love with you, I like you." After saying this, she disconnected the call. As soon as the phone went silent, my first thought went toward my friends and acquaintances. I wondered if this was some kind of joke. Who could it be? My focus completely shifted from work to this mysterious caller. Anyway, I saved that number in my phone. That night, after dinner, when I came to my room to lie down, I decided to call that number to find out who she was and what she wanted. I lay on the bed and dialed the number. The phone rang, but no one answered. I tried again, and on the second ring, the call was picked up. A woman's voice said, "Yes, hello, who is this?" I said, "This number called me several times this morning. Can you tell me who you are and what you want? What is the matter?" She replied, "How could calls come from this number? This phone is always with me and I never called you." I said, "Madam, your number is still saved in my received calls. Why would I lie to you?" She replied, "So you think I'm lying?" I said, "I don't know about that. I only know that I'm telling the truth." She then said, "All right, let's assume I didn't call you in the morning. Now tell me, what will you do?" I replied, "I didn't call you, you called me. So what do you want now?" At this question, she gave me such an answer that, as a Pakistani man, I never expected from a Pakistani woman. I never even imagined a girl could say something like this. She said, "I want you now." Hearing this, I went silent for a few moments. Then she spoke again and said, "In the morning, you were making big claims. What happened now? Were those just empty words? Looks like you got scared." After saying this, she laughed loudly. I replied, "There's nothing like that, madam. I've never talked about love with any girl before and I'm not afraid of anyone." Hearing this, she laughed even louder and said, "All right, we'll see." I asked her, "Where do you live?" She replied, "In my house," and laughed again. I said, "Where exactly is your residence?" She said, "Leave that. I'll call you tomorrow morning and tell you where to meet." I agreed. That night, I couldn't stop thinking about this beautiful woman. I finally fell asleep around 4 a.m., and even in my dreams I was talking to her. The next day, I went to the office as usual, but my heart wasn't in my work. I was only waiting for her call. Every moment felt heavy. Around 12 noon, my phone rang. When I looked at the display, it was her number. I quickly answered. The same woman from last night greeted me and asked how I was. She asked if she had disturbed me. I said, "No, I've been waiting for your call since morning." She laughed loudly and then I asked, "So what's the plan?" She said, "Can you come to DHA by 3 o'clock? I have a bungalow there. Once you arrive, call me on this number." I said, "Okay, I'll be there exactly at 3. I quickly finished my office work, left around 2:30, and reached the mentioned DHA block almost on time. I called her number and she said, "Stay there, I'm coming." I started imagining how she would look. Just then, a new Corolla stopped near me. A very beautiful woman was sitting inside. I prayed silently that she might be the one I was supposed to meet. She looked at me once or twice, then took her phone out of her bag and dialed a number. As soon as she put the phone to her ear, my phone rang. It was the same number. I answered, and she recognized me. She smiled while sitting in the car and said, "Come on, it's me." I sat in her car. She was wearing a pant shirt and looked extremely beautiful. She said, "So I've heard you're very loyal in friendship." I said, "Do you doubt that?" She smiled. Soon, the car stopped in front of a large mansion. A servant opened the door and she took me inside. The bungalow was magnificent. She parked the car inside and brought me to the TV lounge. She said casually, "I like informality. From now on, don't say you formally, just you as close friends." I had no objection. She turned on the TV and said she'd be back in a minute. I thought she had gone to freshen up. Honestly, I had no interest in the TV at all. My mind was completely on her. A servant brought fruits and snacks. I picked up an apple and started eating. Meanwhile, she came back out. She said, "Please eat, you haven't taken anything." I replied, "I ate earlier, so I'm not very hungry." Then she said, "Come, I'll show you my bedroom," and took me there. The bedroom was also very luxurious, with the AC already on. She made me sit on the bed and locked the door herself. She sat beside me and said, "You haven't told me your name, and you didn't ask mine either." I said, "My name is Jamal." She replied, "My name is Firdous." I said, "That's a very beautiful name." She smiled and said, "Yours is beautiful too." Then she said, "You must be thinking that I have everything, so why did I bring you here?" I said, "Yes, I've been thinking about that, and about your bungalow as well." She said, "I'm married. This bungalow belongs to my husband, who lives in America. 3 years ago, he married another woman there. She had everything, yet no peace." She said, "I have everything in the world, but I don't have my husband's love." I felt she was about to cry. She explained that the day she called me, she had just spoken to her husband, who didn't care about her at all. In anger, she dialed a wrong number, mine. She said, "When you told me that I was a good and sincere person, your words stayed in my mind all night. I couldn't sleep." I listened to her story in shock. Everything became clear. She later said, "After everything, I want you as a friend." Over time, she even bought me a 5-marla double-story house in Lahore, in my name. Believe it or not, this woman changed my life. She stood by me in my worst days. But despite all her wealth, she was empty inside. One day she said, "Jamal, I want to go somewhere without walls, where breathing feels peaceful." I smiled and said, "Then come to my village, no walls but very strong relationships." She hesitated, then agreed. When her shining Prado entered my village on Sunday morning, people stopped working in the fields to look. She stared at the yellow mustard flowers like she was seeing a miracle. At my old ancestral house, my cousin Shaukat stood under a neem tree, stunned. Firdous wore a simple shalwar kameez with a dupatta, yet her presence left everyone speechless. She was welcomed with pure love, lassi, butter, sog, maki kai roti. She ate everything happily. At the canal, an old man named Baba Noor said, "In cities, people have clocks but no time. In villages, we have no clocks but plenty of time. Peace lies in killing desires." Tears filled Firdous's eyes. While returning, she said, "Jamal, you are rich. Your village, these people, this soil, this is real wealth. My bungalow has chandeliers but no light." When I dropped her home, she said, "Thank you, Jamal. Today you didn't just show me a village, you showed me life."